Do it. Try it. Do it. Try it. Do it. Try it. Do it. Listen to the sound of a new tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Sean Lambert, and welcome to this somewhat tongue-in-cheek entry into Matrix Games' map competition for their new game, Armored Brigade. As you saw in the intro, they are looking for a map to be made for their new game, and they provided map files, which I downloaded. And they specifically say to focus on design skills and creativity rather than QGIS proficiency. We all know how that's going to go. QGIS. Click. The selection criteria: accuracy and completeness of the submitted map section, creativity and artistic talent, not getting that one, ability to convey tactical importance of terrain feature, overall aesthetic quality, and attention to detail. For inspiration and a sense of direction, we encourage reviewing existing maps within Armored Brigade. So let's do that. Armored Brigade is a game about real-time tactical wargame focusing on realism and playability, which are mutually exclusive. In Armored Brigade, the Cold War has turned hot, and Europe is once again torn apart by conflict. An iron curtain divides Western powers gathered together under the NATO banner from the Soviet Union. Those evil Soviet guys that I prefer to play as. So the map style here looks kind of isometric-y, with this horrifying looking mini map, and the unit styles are like a mix of like tiny little sprite models and some little NATO symbols. Honestly, I haven't played the game, so I don't know too much about it. It's on sale for $20 though, so maybe I should get it. I don't know. Let's see if there's any other. So this is the entire game map, which is a 192 by 96. I don't know what that means. But, yeah, so it has maps, I guess. The Fulda Gap, North German Plain, Fort Irwin, Southeast Finland, about 61 by 61 each. Okay. The battle location can be selected seamlessly. Interesting. And they have 3 DLCs for it. France, which if the Soviets made it all the way to France, I think Europe is pretty much dead at that point, right? Holland and Czechoslovakia. Again, if they're rolling T-70s through the streets of Holland, I think you got some big problems. And then Italy and Yugoslavia. I guess Yugoslavia is kind of realistic. And even Czechoslovakia. You could see Cold War going hot in those areas. But, I mean, there's nothing fancy about these maps that they're showing in their game. They're very basic. I mean, like this one here is... If you're judging this on the categories that they have here, accuracy, completeness, creative and artistic, I don't think it really meets either of those two. Does it convey tactical importance of terrain features? I guess you could say that the woods and the roads are important. I don't know the game rules, so I mean, in most war games, you move faster on the roads and slower in the woods. But there's no sort of like height or anything to this. So if there's any sort of vision involved, then I can't see how a map like this would be very helpful. As for this map, this is a little bit more confusing because this is a completely different style. This looks like more of an isometric, like attempted to be 2.5D almost. But then you get something like this where it's just clearly sprites. So I mean, these are maybe nicer sprites, but this map actually looks kind of good. But the models are just not that good looking, to be honest. And the mini map, the whole time, it's just changing back and forth between different styles. So I don't really know the style there. Like, is this the game style or is this flat one the game style? I don't know. Maybe it changes based on the scale of the map. But that's easy enough to deal with. So anyway, we will take advantage of QGIS, unlike the prompt says, except we are actually going to try to meet some of these criteria. So we reviewed Armored Brigade maps. Check. Successful candidates will be commissioned to create 2 full-scale 30 by 30 maps for inclusion in Armored Brigade 2. Should we just provide those as well? Maybe we should. I don't know. And the deadline officially starts today, which was March 20th. Today is not March 20th. Today is April 17th. And they are due on Friday. So this got brought to my attention by someone in my Kriegspiel club today. And everyone was like, oh, 2 days. Nothing we could do about that. So I'm cheating. I'm going to use GIS, and we're going to do it in 2 days. In fact, we're going to do it in one night. All right. So in GIS, the thing we need to know is where it's located, right? Well, conveniently, in these files that they gave us, if you look at the title, it says Hof. So I was thinking, wonder where this could be in the world, because it didn't seem likely that they were using a fantasy map. So I opened up the files, and look at what they give you. This looks an awful lot like an open street map. In fact, it is. Look at the style. It's open streets. And, oh, would you look at that? Everything is labeled Hof. So it's like, this looks like German. Hey, wait, I know that river. This is the Hof Gap. So, if you were to Google it, Hof is located in Bavaria. It's kind of right in line with Leipzig. It's a little bit south of Leipzig, kind of in the Jena, Leipzig area. And it's a pretty old city, and it was famous during the Cold War because obviously we had East and West Germany at the time, and this was kind of the borderlands. And so this terrain was seen as kind of favorable for tanks and stuff like that. So that's kind of why it became famous. And there's a series of Central Front, Hof Gap, and a couple other games that Callendale was playing a few months ago, and they actually looked really fun. But there was quite a few games have been made in the Cold War Gone Hot kind of model. And so, with that information, we have enough to use GIS to make our map. So we're going to take what they already had, OpenStreetMap. We'll zoom in into Hof. Boop, boop, boop. Where were we? Hof. There's Nuremberg. There it is, Hof. And it seemed like they were at a pretty low scale. So let's try 1 to 100,000. That's not quite right. 15? Not 15, 150,000. It's closer. Let's do 14. Let's look back at the image real quick. think it might be a little bit further out than that, because you see how it should include a little bit more of the bottom. So let's do back to 15 or 150. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's at 150, or it's pretty close. So it's about 150. And then the next thing I'm going to do, and what I kind of like to start most of my wargame maps with, is a layer of a hex grid. Now, in this case, the game doesn't appear to have any sort of grid on. Well, actually, I take that back. It does have a grid here. So let's go with a square grid instead. We'll do, it's kind of hard to tell what distance those are. I want to say it might be as small as a kilometer. It might be smaller though. It might be 500 meters. Let's try a kilometer to start with and see what that looks like. Okay, so 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters, and the grid type is going to be rectangle. And if you wanted to do a hexagon, obviously you pick hexagon here. But in this case, the style of this game is gridded, not hexagons. Then we right click on it, go to properties. We're going to change the symbology to be not filled with color. We're just going to have a transparent fill. Apply that, and then obviously these lines are a little bit aggressive, so we are gonna probably see what that looks like. Let's do a slightly more transparent color. See, I don't like my grids to be super bold. I prefer like the slightly less bold style, but we can come back to that one once we get some more of our features down. All right, so over the top of this, we're going to do our terrain next. And I think this area is pretty flat. So what we're going to start with is a little tiny bit of hill shade here, and it's going to be an omnidirectional or a multi-directional hill shade. Let's just see the roughness. So it's not super rough. I think it looks maybe better this way. Yeah, let's go with that. And the azimuth will be kind of from the south. We'll call this more of a wintry map. So like, actually we'll do morning. So we'll do southeast. Oh, sorry, I reversed that, didn't I? So the sun is on this side, shadows are on this side. We want it like this. It's not quite right, is it? Okay, that looks kind of good. I mean, doesn't currently look good, but we're gonna fix that. So we're gonna bring the transparency way down. That's the key when you're working with terrain features like this. Just to give you that texture, right? You're not trying to make it look super strong. So now that it's toned down a bit, now when we colorize contours over the top of it and stuff like that, that's what's going to make it pop. You don't want your base terrain to be very strong. You want the base terrain is just to give a flavor of where the hills and the features are, but you want the real features to stand out with contours or something like that, or colors. And so to do that, we're going to bring in another terrain layer. And this is going to be our first, well, actually, let's do contour layer first. I don't know what the elevations here are. Let's see what 100 meters looks like. I don't know if that's good. Let's try 50 meters. I think this is going to be a little bit better. A little bit more contours. And then here you can see the river contours too, which I always like to have the river banks in there. I'm just going to try one a little bit lower, like 25 meters. Ooh, maybe that's the one. No, I'm gonna go back to 50. And we'll stick with 50 for now. So now we can kind of see our terrain, see the river banks, we see the little hilly areas. They even match up right on the map. So that's important to have those hills marked out. And now what we're going to do is bring in a third terrain layer. And this is going to be our color layer. And we're going to put this below the other two. So we have our terrain on top, our contours on top, and then I'm going to rename these layers before I forget what they are. So this is contours, and then the second layer is our hills, and then third layer is going to be color. So we can get a pretty good map with just these 3 steps here. And then we actually are going to drag up our grid to be above that stuff as well, because we're going to need to see that. Okay, so now for our color grid, it's going to be a single band pseudo color. And what I like to do is I choose discrete here, and by discrete, I mean exact. I'm an idiot. What am I doing wrong? It is discrete. Equal interval. And I think we're going to go with like 4 or 5 colors here. I'm not sure. And then as for a color ramp, I like to do, I mean, it seems like they have kind of a greenish style for their map. So maybe we do kind of a, these are the colors I normally use. Maybe something with a little bit less red. So this would be, let's call this 500 meters. And then we need one for 400, 300, 200, and then 100. So that's the hills. And then, oh, actually, I don't really know what the altitudes of this area are. It looks like they might be a little higher. Maybe we do 750, 500. Just trying to figure out what we have to work with here. That's kind of cool. Except now I want more of a lighter style here. And then our 600 is where we're going to transition to a more of a brown color. Well, I think this clearly shows the high ground areas. But is it too high ground? I don't know. I think we might need a little bit more variation at the top end here. I think that would make it look a little bit better. So maybe we do... Well, this one is clearly not right. This should be a... It's not really blue though. So this is like the riverbed. What color is a riverbed? Probably more of like a saturated green, right? That makes it look like a wood area though. I don't really like that either. Yeah, this is just gonna make it look like woods if I make it green. Even though it would be probably woodier. Let's see what it looks like on the sat map. Yeah, see the terrain here is not woodsy. The woodsy areas are actually in the hills, if anything. So the terrain here is much lighter color. So maybe we do more of like a grayish yellow. So higher value, lower saturation. Let's see how that looks. And it's a slightly darker value, so it's gonna be clear that it's lower, I think. I don't know. It doesn't scream out lower to me. Oh God, I hate that it makes you redo that. Alright, I think I'm gonna go with 7 colors. I need a lot more colors than I thought. I guess the lowest one is gonna be this one. And that's gonna be 400 meters, I think. Above that, we're gonna do this color here. So even a little bit lighter, I think. I want the difference between those two to be very, very small. So that's gonna be... actually, this one's going to be 400, isn't it? This is going to be 500. And then this one will be maybe a lighter green color. That would be kind of nice. Mintier color. And this will be at 550. And then we get into the heavier woods. Where we'll do like this color here. call this 575. So just like smatterings of it. That's kind of looking good. And we'll have a darker color. This could be 580. So just a little tiny bit of it. And then we have a even darker version of that. Yeah, that looks kind of good. I don't know, maybe we even need more colors than this. Did I flip my layers? I think I did. Oh, I have an extra one. Okay, hold on. So I was doing 580. Let's call this 585. And then our top areas can be like that brownish color. It's lighter. Why am I getting the tops of the hills in that ugly color? There we go. 1000. I don't know if I like that color scheme. I don't think I do. What if I go a little bit higher with this one? Damn, I really think I need another. I think I need another color. Unfortunately. Alright, this time I'm going to do it right. And then we just got to change the numbers again. So what was this? 500? 550? 600? 650? 700, 800, and then 1,000. This is going to be our new color. Now I just got to move them around a little bit, I think. 625. I kind of like this look now. Let's see how accurate that is. It's getting pretty close, actually. So we might need to stick a few farms in with like shape layers. But I actually think this is not bad as far as a map style goes. Yeah, I kind of like this. All right. Now, let's bring in some data. So we're going to bring in highways. I'll just do all highway. Streets. Let's see what we got here. What do we not need? Probably don't need pedestrians, living streets, service, parking aisles, escapes, bicycle designations, bicycle roads. Yeah, we'll leave that in. We'll leave unclassified in. We'll take out construction. Take out those. Those are just going to be points. All right, that's pretty good. And then to canvas. Make sure we're zoomed out enough. Just make sure we're kind of positioned where we want it to be. There we go. Run. Okay, so what that did, that's open street map. It pulls in all of these roads here, and let's just quickly improve the symbology of them. So make them black. Actually, maybe we do. It's a little bit too bold, I think. But I do want kind of a 3D effect. So it's just a matter of making it a little narrower. Just one more down. And let's give it a little bit of a color. Let's see what that looks like. We're gonna increase the stroke width and decrease this a little bit. Increase about 1. Nope, it's too much. So we'll do 0.2 maybe. Nice, nice. All right, and now you see there's a lot of roads in this area, so we probably are going to want to tone some of these way down. And the fastest way to do that is to just delete stuff. So I might do it that way. But let's bring in the rivers first, and then we'll decide. Okay, we'll bring in rivers. Can hide the points. We'll make the rivers blue, obviously. But what blue? I think like maybe a greenish blue. I've never been to Germany, so do not know what the color of the water there is. But I do know that rivers should be blue. Don't know how I feel about that blue color though. It's kind of clashing a little bit. It's got to be a little cooler, I think. Yeah, that's more like it. Maybe some effect to it too. More of a dash? No. Simple blue line. Just trying out some of the filters here just to see if I can get a little bit different of a look. Because I'm almost thinking I want to emboss it, actually. Maybe a little drop shadow. Let's try something like that. I made it really black. Let's take out the inner shadow. Leave the drop shadow. But we'll change the color of the shadow to just be a darker blue instead of black. Crank down the blur radius. Crank down the opacity of this. Change it to that blue. And then we want it to be coming from the same angle that the rest of the light is coming from, right? So let's see what that looks like. It's blending just a little too much. Let's make it just a little bolder, maybe. I kind of like that, actually. Maybe it should pop a little bit more so you can tell it's a river, though. I do kind of like that. Oh, that kind of looks nice. All right, now I want to shrink it down a little bit again. See what that looks. Yeah, that looks really nice. Cool. Okay. I think we go with that for our river. All right, now let's add labels to the river. And then eventually we're going to add some town labels. And that will probably be just about it. Maybe just a little hint of terrain or something. But I kind of like just the simple color terrain like this. I think it looks more beautiful this way. So we're going to add labels, and the name will be EN. What, do they not have name EN in this one? Really? Okay, cool. I guess we'll just do name, see what that gives us. And then we want maybe 40. How big is that going to be? Oh, Jesus, that's huge. Oh, that's why it's in points, not meters. We want it to be about 1,000, I think. That'll be readable. I always like to have a buffer on it. Just to make it pop a little bit better. And let's change this down a little bit. We're gonna drop it down to like 500 meters. That looks good. How's the other one look? Good. And we want it repeated every 10 kilometers maybe. This is the trick. Yeah, I want it to be right on the river, I think. There we go, merge connected lines. That's the setting I wanted. Actually, we'll limit labels to 5. How about that? What does that show? No. That doesn't work. Shit. Thought that would work. Oh, that's right. I usually, in my style that I normally do, I always have the buffer as like a blue. So I remember it's water. Except a really light blue, I think. Oh, that's ugly. That's not bad. And then Cold War text style. What font is the Cold War? Maybe like a computer looking font? Like one of these Cascadia codes. Cascadia codes. I kind of like that. The problem is that this feature is going to have to be moved, the label of it. So I don't know if I can do that here. I don't think I can move the label. No. That's a shame. Because that's going to be right in that town. But I'll just have to make the town names really big. Okay, so the next thing we're going to bring in is the town names. Actually, we'll just do places. Okay, so we'll get rid of continent, country, state, region, county. We'll bring in city, municipality, town, village, hamlet, and then the rest of this stuff I think we get rid of. Yeah. Let's try that. That's a lot of dots. That's more dots than I was expecting. Let's turn the labels on and see what these dots are. They don't have name English in here, which I find absolutely insane. They have name though, so just do that. Jesus, those are huge. Absolutely massive. Oh, it's in points. That's what I was messing up. Okay, so it's labeling all these little towns. Okay, so this is where you got to go to the database and look at your actual data. So because this map is mostly about Hof, we want Hof to be big. And then the rest of the stuff can be kind of a different style, a smaller style. So let's make sure Hof is really big. So we can use kind of a logical based label here. So you can use a formula for this. Name equals, I think it's spelled Hof. You want that single quotes. One feature, perfect. Okay, so name equals Hof, and then for Hof, we want it to be like 1,000 meters. And we want this text to be a really distinctive, bold font. So we'll come back up to here. Maybe we'll do the full bolded version of this. Bold italic. We'll do a nice text buffer of like a gold color. Okay, that's not what I thought it would do. I put it into the wrong spot. Oops. That was kind of funny though. I'd never seen it do that before. There we go. Now Hof is nice and big. Okay, so now the next rule will just be name, and this will be a slightly smaller, less bold font. And we'll have this be maybe 350. And this will be name doesn't equal Hof. That kind of looks good. Now I would like to make these other two towns, the two bigger towns, to have their names bigger. I don't know what those towns are though. This one here, Schwarzenbach. So I want Schwarzenbach's name to be bigger. Of course, it has to have the longest bloody name in here. I'm thinking about deleting the hamlets. I don't think we need the hamlets. Do I not have edit mode on? I do not. It's like, what is going on here? Delete 81 features. All right, that cleans things up a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. And maybe I add an additional rule for, hold on, I gotta look at the data again. The problem is Hof is also a place called town. I could change Hof to be a city. Let's do that. Let's call it a city, and then Schwarzenbach. Then the rest of the towns will hit it with that other rule to make them a little bit bolder. What am I doing? So that was place equals town. We're going to display the name still. And we're just going to make this just a little bit bolder. We'll make this 500 meters. And we will give this one a small buffer. Is it not hitting this? What am I doing wrong here? Why is it not finding any matches? Is it not capitalized maybe? Ugh. Oh, place is not capitalized. Neither of them are. Place, town. Place, town. It ain't doing that. Oh, it's because this is here. Let's do else. There we go. Back to 400 meters. Let's try that. Also, I'm not really happy with the placement of that label. What am I thinking here? I think I do placement. We want these names to be pretty high priority. I'd say highest priority. I want them maybe on the right side. I think that looks better. Yeah, just always having them on the right side. There, that looks kind of beautiful. And all the other names, I think they do need to be a little bit better. So let's take a look at the else. $350. We'll give it a small text buffer. Just kind of a very gray one though. Don't want to pop out too much. Yeah, see, that's too much. That's unreadable. Let's shrink down the text buffer to way lower. I don't really like that color along with how light that font is. I think with a darker font it'll actually be okay. So let's try just the regular Cascadia code. And maybe it's still a little too much buffer. There, that's good. I'm not in love with how that looks. Maybe the marker will make it look better. I like my markers to be relatively transparent. I don't know how I feel about that. It doesn't look bad zoomed in though. It's just not the right font, I think. I think that's the main issue. I think it needs to be maybe italicized. Maybe that's what it's missing. Can this one go italic? Yeah, give it a little bit of a slant. That looks good. My problem is they're kind of unreadable at this scale. So maybe they do need to be a little bit bigger, but there's so many of them. That's the problem. Either that or they need to be smaller so you can't even see them at this scale. Maybe I try that. Maybe I try making them smaller. So there's more map and less markers. The other thing I could do is I could invert the colors. I might do that. Let's try that. Oh, we could do a background, like a call-out background on them. I don't know if that's necessary, though. Let's try inverting the colors. Nope, that's unreadable. I take it back. Actually, is it? Maybe I just need to... That actually looks kind of good. I like the style in some ways. Yeah, I don't mind the style. One thing we could do, just looking at the state of this thing. So I think it gives you the overall picture of this area. It gives you, the major terrain features, which is the rivers, the city, the little towns, and then a whole bunch of little kind of objective points, like all these little villages to capture or to fight over. What we could do is we could add numbers onto the grid. So the game didn't appear to have those. Based on what I could see. Right? So there's no gridded numbers because you don't really want the numbers clouding up your UI necessarily. So let's leave the numbers off. We'll save our edits here. And what else could we add? Maybe... I mean, I actually kind of like how it looks overall. Yeah, let's go with it. All right, so then the last step on every QGIS project is saving the damn thing. And this is where you can run into a lot of problems. So let's delete the layers that we didn't actually use, first of all, so we're not wasting space. Remove layer. Remove layer. And remove layer. Do we want to label the roads? We might want to do that actually. I didn't even think about that. But let's label the roads with some just very basic labels. I don't know what this data looks like too. Damn. Let's see. Sort by ones that actually have names, first of all. Let's see. Do we have English names here? Or just the German ones? Not that German names are terribly bad. They're usually pretty readable. It's really like Asian characters where you really have to replace them. Most other language, well, Cyrillic too. But the Asian ones are like really hard to work with because Asian characters just tend to take up a lot of space on the map. So even if you're making a map and you have an Asian market in mind for it, it's almost better to make it in English and in whatever language you're targeting, because sometimes the English version will just look better for whatever reason. The character density, I think the characters in Chinese and Japanese and Korean and Vietnamese all tend to be a little bit on the denser side. So I think it's sometimes better to do it a little bit set it up in English and then see how it looks and then try flip-flopping it back and forth. Trying to see if any of these places are actually named, or if I could safely just enable labels kind of across the board. They are named. Let's see what it looks like when I turn the labels on. Usually for a buffer on these ones, I do like a brown or something that will indicate that it's a road. So we see we have some road names, and not many. So if I was really gonna do a good map, I would go through and try to label all these names, but because I'm doing it on a 2-day contest, I think I will probably not do that. Unless there's some other field that has names in it. Or maybe I deleted maybe the names are under the points in this area. You never know. When you're working with OSM, it's like, you can get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky, but I'm not gonna go crazy trying to name everything. I think you get the idea of the style here, and you get the idea of the workflow, like what it would take to do a really good map. is probably another like 20 or 30 hours of just making these same kind of decisions, just going back and forth on what the decisions. And obviously you would want to be led by whatever your brief is. So in this case, we're going for accuracy and completeness. We got that done. Creativity and artistic talent. I feel like we were pretty creative. Did we convey tactical importance of terrain features? I actually think we did a really good job of that. More so than the maps that I was seeing in their actual game. Because you can really see that this is a hilly, forested area that you're going to have to head through. And this is going to be really difficult terrain in the middle of the map. Very defensive terrain. And then down by the city, it's more open terrain on the kind of on the lower river banks. You can see the flat areas. And you have these like little micro terrain features, which in a modern game can be very important, especially in tank games, because you could hide a little tank, like a tank platoon or something behind this. And they couldn't be seen from this other side. So I think those like line of sight concerns on a map like this are very cool. Now, obviously, if you're actually needing to calculate line of sight, you would have to bring in 3D elements into this map, which is well beyond the scope of a 2-day project. But if you wanted to make this a 3D map, you could use this as a really good starting point, extract the Z values out of it, and work on a 3D map from it. It's just that is a lot more work than I'm willing to put into this little kind of throwaway contest here. And especially because I am breaking the QGIS rule, that probably will eliminate me from contention here. And I don't even know if I would want to make two 30 by 30 maps for Armored Brigade 2. I don't know. I don't know how I submit this. I'll figure it out. So the last step would be creating a export layout. So that's the last thing I'm going to display here after we save everything. So I'm going to highlight all these things that we created here, and I'm going to save them all. Do a new folder. Armored Brigade 2 contest. And we'll call this Sean Lambert map submission. And then we got to make all these permanent. Grid, Armored Brigade, Brigade 2. Okay. We gotta go through that same process with all these. Grid. Oh, actually, this one's gonna be places, place names, Armored Brigade 2. Make this one permanent. This is rivers. And then finally, highways. Oops. And then last but not least, let's show our actual progress here, because it is pretty stunning when you see where we came from and where we are now. So this is the original map, and you can see here these are kind of the forested areas that we're somewhat representing, although we're taking a little liberty with the actual terrain. We are not showing that airport. I don't know if air is an important consideration in this game, but I didn't put it in. You could easily draw an airport in there if you wanted to. Now let's So this is with no style effects on it. This is what our base map looks like. And I think that looks kind of cool. You could actually probably do something with that. But then all of a sudden we start adding in our roads. Now we got a lot of detail here. Our rivers, our cities. And then you get this. This is where the magic happens. When you get the hill shaded layer on, we bring our grid on, we put our contours on, and that really ties it all together. And now this map is pretty complete. So all you got to do is export it. So what we're going to do is create a new print layout here. And this will be map submission. And we're going to bring in our map. What am I doing here? Why is our grid not extending up there? Is this off of our map? I think it might be. So we want the scale to be 1500. Right. I think that's what our scale was set to over here. And then we want these extents here. Let's save this. I always forget how to do this part. There's a button that you can copy your map extent from. Where the hell is it? Oh well, I can just guess. So this is 129. Oh, there we go. Let's do it this way. Let's try that. See, I want this image. Yeah, I want it a little bit more zoomed in than this, though. There. See, it's not showing up. There we go. I want to make sure that this name is on the map, because that's one of the interesting features of this map. I actually think this is a pretty nice looking map. Alright, do we want to add anything else? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we want to keep it like this. This is really clean. Alright, let's save this. Let's export, not PDF. Export as image. Let's give them a little bit more DPI than this. Let's do, well, actually, let's see what this looks like first. .8 megs, smaller than theirs. I think this actually looks quite beautiful. I'd be happy playing on this map. Now, you could argue that maybe some of the side streets should have been eliminated, but in a one night kind of map, I think this is good enough. I think this gives you enough detail that you could play any sort of modern game on it. And I don't think that airport is all that important to a campaign like this. I think you'd be having off-map air missions come on. I don't think you'd be flying air missions out of that tiny little airfield. Especially with tanks rolling around. So I think this is probably fine. You really want to emphasize the tank element of it if you're doing a Cold War game. Close this version of it. But I think this is good enough DPI that they can work with it. I think it's actually a pretty beautiful map, believe it or not. I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I would play on this map personally because I find it attractive. And I think accuracy-wise, it's a relatively accurate map. Not necessarily to satellite terrain, modern satellite terrain, but I think it's accurate to the idea of this terrain more than anything, because you want to emphasize the defensive nature of this kind of line through here. Even though it's a little bit further back than the defensive line in real life, I actually like that there's a space in between the river and this defensive line. It kind of splits the map up into three sections. So you have the river section on the left with its defensive terrain here. So that's like your second defensive line that you could fall back to. And then you've got this nice defensive terrain along the road that you could hold for a long time. So from a wargaming perspective, I think this would be a very interesting map to play on. So I'm going to submit it, see what happens. Until next time, see ya.